Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Well,
J.D. Vance spoke to the Firefighters Union just a day after Tim Walz, and it didn't go too well, especially by comparison. So I'm going to play a few clips from J.D. Vance's appearance, including something he really should not have mentioned. I'll get to what that is. That is the third clip, but I'm also going to do a comparison between Tim Walz and Vance, as it is just night and day. But first, here is right after J.D. Vance is introduced, and already the crowd is not feeling it.
thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Well, Semper Fi, guys. We got some. It sounds like we got some fans and some haters. That's okay. Listen to what I have to say here, and I'll make my pitch.
Already off to a rough start. So in a bit, I'm going to get to some clear examples of what Trump did during his administration that was anti-labor. But you also could just look at some recent clips. This is from just 2 weeks ago in Trump's discussion with Elon Musk, where the UAW actually filed federal labor charges over this. Here's what was said.
I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone.
Like, you can't say this and then claim to be pro-labor. Not that anybody at this point should be fooled. If you care about the working class, maybe you're part of a union and you're voting for Trump, you likely prioritize your own racism or xenophobia over your actual working and living conditions. And, that's an issue that you got to deal with. But anyone who pays attention to actual working class issues understands that Donald Trump is not pro-labor. So I'm going to show the comparison now. Tim Walz, this is when he brings up Kamala Harris, and when J.D. Vance brings up Donald Trump. And look at the reaction from the crowd in both situations.
But I can promise you this. When Vice President Harris and I win this election, we'll have your back just like you've had ours this entire time.
President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history, and I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike.
Not a lot of love in that room. So let me be very clear. This is a great resource because they even include the footnotes here for each of these claims. So you can look it up yourself, go directly to the source. This is from the Communications Workers of America, Trump's anti-worker record. He encouraged freeloaders, made it more difficult to enforce collective bargaining agreements, silenced workers, and restricted the freedom to join unions. So some specific examples: packed the courts with anti-labor judges who have made the entire public sector right to work for less, stacked the National Labor Relations Board with anti-union appointees, made it easier for employers to fire or penalize workers, promised to veto the PRO Act and the Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act. He restricted overtime pay, opposed wage increases, and gutted health and safety protections, including changed the rules about who qualifies for overtime pay, reduced the number of OSHA inspectors, threatened to veto legislation that would raise the minimum wage. Secretary of Labor, Eugene Scalia, is an anti-worker, union-busting corporate lawyer. And it goes on. There are so many. I just can't be here all day reading the entire record. But it's very obvious. One of the clear, massive benefits of the Biden administration, not just compared to Trump, but compared to Obama, compared to Clinton, compared to Bush, obviously, is his pro-union record. So just briefly here, the Economic Policy Institute, their headline, The Biden Board, How President Biden's NLRB appointees are restoring and supporting workers' rights. So the National Labor Relations Board during the Biden administration has supported workers' rights to form unions and engage in collective bargaining, standing in stark contrast to Trump administration's anti-worker record. They have a longer report, but I just want to show you the impact of this. Share of National Labor Relations Board elections that resulted in union certification. Look at this massive, clear increase under Joe Biden. This is his best area. And I have to say, before he was elected, I was not expecting this. Joe Biden has talked a big game about being Union Joe, but his career is often working on behalf of credit card companies. But whatever change happened, and the right people were put in place at the NLRB, and the things have been moving in the right direction for labor under Joe Biden. And that's, again, in stark contrast to Donald Trump. And then, just worth noting here, historian gives Union Joe a higher grade than any president since FDR. And that is from Eric Loomis from the University of Rhode Island. So I'll link to this below the video as well. But I want to get to the last J.D. Vance clip here, where he brings a name up that he probably should not have mentioned. And I'll explain why.
Donald Trump is not exactly like Mitt Romney or some of the Republicans of the past. He is a different kind of Republican. And under his leadership, the Republican Party is the party of the American worker. Now just think about the Republican and Democrat conventions we just had. It says a lot who each party chose to put up on that stage. At the Republican convention, we were featuring everyday American workers, and of course, we had Hulk Hogan. And while it's tempting, and I'm sure it would make some big headlines, don't worry, everybody, I'm not going to try to take off my shirt here.
All right. Apart from botching that joke there at the end, he mentions Hulk Hogan right after mentioning how Donald Trump is the president for the American worker. And we featured Hulk Hogan at the RNC on the final day, by the way, right before Trump spoke, when all the eyeballs are on the convention, featured Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan helped to bust a potential union at the WWE. Here is Jesse Ventura telling that story.
As far as Hogan goes, it doesn't surprise me because when I was in wrestling in the 80s, I tried to unionize wrestling, and it was Hulk Hogan who cut my legs out from under me. Hulk Hogan went to Vince McMahon, ratted me out, and subsequently later on cost me my job. So it doesn't surprise me to see Hogan with the Republicans because Hogan's as anti-union as you can get. There still is not a union in professional wrestling. The reason I tried to do it, I was in an elevator and ran into Gene Upshaw, the great tackle guard from the Oakland Raiders. Right. And Big Gene raised his finger up and looked at me and says, you boys need to form a union. I tried to do it, and it was Hulk Hogan who ratted me out to Vince McMahon, and subsequently I was fired and lost my job.
So J.D. Vance, in front of a room of union members, thinks it's a good idea to remind everybody that Hulk Hogan, one of the most famous union busters of all time, was featured at the RNC. Terrible politics. I didn't even cover, by the way, the J.D. Vance at the donut shop, which also went to showcase how incapable J.D. Vance is in connecting with the average person. But just to put a pin on this point about Hulk Hogan, so it was Vince McMahon that admitted this under oath under oath that Hulk Hogan had snitched on his fellow wrestlers in 1986. So that was during a deposition in another case in 91. So it is wild how clueless J.D. Vance is. But it's good to see the union members there recognize a fraud when they see one.